right now, when you mention about Kingpin, still many people in their mind, they talk about Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
So there are quite a number of men who actually, they own the Mount Kenya. And therefore, it was very difficult. It has been very difficult for the Deputy President actually to put himself into a position where he's very feasible. He is trying, but I think people still have not accepted him 100%. And that's why you are finding that many people actually are coming up. And I can tell you, Mount Kenya, what happens is that the way we say it, there are some people who drive Mount Kenya.
Yes.
Politics.
Yes.
It is not the people who are top there. There are some men who actually play their cards very well. And I don't think they are playing their cards towards the Deputy President. And these are the challenges that you are seeing. And he is going to have it rough. It is not going to be easy. Because like the Young Turks, you can see what they are doing. Actually, they are decided that this man is not the man that we want.
Yes.
He is there because the Constitution talks about that. But I can tell you, if they had a way, they would actually do things differently.
They feel like he was shoved down their throat?
Yes, it was just like even Azimio.
Yes.
You remember about Mother Karua.
Yes.
Mother Karua, in the first place, he was not popular at all. And that's why you had even many people say she did not even bring votes, as many votes as she was expected to bring in Azimio. Why? It is because those were not actually the strong leaders in Mount Kenya. So those two actually, whether it was actually the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza, those were not the most, they were not the most popular people in that region. But I think those calculations, the way they were done, they found themselves in that situation. And I can tell you things are about to change. Because I think right now, people are trying to see. Because do you know one thing? Even the people were disappointed in the first place when Deputy President Gachagua was actually announced as the running mate for President Ruto. Because their expectation was actually Kindiki would actually be the person who is going to take over the whole thing of the Mount Kenya.
Is it because Kindiki looks more cultured, for lack of a better terminology? He looks more cultured, he looks more of today kind of person, educated. I know Gachagua is also educated, but if you compare him with Kindiki, the way Kindiki handles himself, he's a blue-eyed boy. Is the, in quotes, unculturedness of the Deputy President the thing that is causing him not to take hold of the reins of power in Mount Kenya?
I personally do not think actually it has nothing to do with his personal character, because politicians tend to develop different personalities depending with where somebody has come from and how it's been nurtured. But I think Pastor David has really captured it very well, because he said Rigathi Gachagua was the least expected deputy presidential candidate for this particular regime because of a short history in politics, short investment in politics. He hasn't been quite there for quite a long time. A lot of people in the Mount Kenya region haven't quite interacted with him over time. He's not as legendary figures like Martha Karua. Remember, Martha Karua was a member of parliament for 20 years straight. Nobody in Gachagua could beat her. And I always thought that if she had gone for governorship in 2013, she probably would have served for 2 terms by now, and she would be the biggest face of the Mount Kenya politics out of the proven track record. And you must remember that even when the deputy president then now President William Ruto was even settling down on his deputy president candidate, he actually put it to vote, and Rigathi Gachagua lost in that particular vote. The members of parliament actually voted for Kindiki. But at that particular time, completely understanding the current president at that time, he didn't just needed the numbers, but he needed the resources as well. So of all the people in that voting parlor, it was only Rigathi Gachagua who could actually mobilize 250 million shillings in record time. He had his 200 million pending in some account somewhere, and that was not his last coin. It was just one of the funds that they had taken. You can imagine 250 million shillings. So Fred, it means you take a member of parliament salary, which is 1 million shillings, times 12, then do it for 30 years. You can imagine, so you can tell his
a lot of
capacity.
money.
Yes.
So at that particular time, I think what Rigathi Gachagua was bringing on the table, despite his campaign prowess,
Is this financial
is also the
muscle.
financial strength, because a lot of what is considered the Mount Kenya Foundation, the billionaires, were with the president at that particular time.
They were with Uhuru
Yeah, with
Kenyatta.
President Uhuru
correct.
Kenyatta.
Yes, true.
So he was at a very tough, it was a very tough balancing act, because he had to balance the will of his supporters, which was that Kindiki is much more likable and is a character that they know. He had already served as 2 terms as a senator of Tharaka Nithi County, but he wasn't bringing in the resources that he badly needed for that campaign. And at that particular time, Rigathi Gachagua became the most appropriate candidate for him, I guess, out of desperation because of the circumstances. So we ended up with him as the deputy president. But then when you look at how the president formed his cabinet, Fred, and I think the day he was forming his cabinet, we were talking with you, with some other guy, I've forgotten him. It was on there. And we were trying to analyze the layout of that cabinet. He goes to Kiambu, picks up Moses Kuria. He goes to Muranga, picks up Wahome, the lady, Wahome, the former MP for Kandara. Yes. He goes to Meru, picks Kindiki. He goes to Embu, picks an AG. He goes to Nyandarua, picks Rebecca Miano. It's a complete rollout of power men across the region. Now, all these people have motorcades, including the leader of majority, who's also from Kiambu.
Yes.
They all have full-blown motorcades and bodyguards. So you can't summon them. You can't say that, come here. It was a very strategic decision. And I think even that particular day, on that day when the president was forming the cabinet, and I think we were talking with you, Fred, I told you, this is a political cabinet, because the president has carefully ensured that he's offset all the regions that he considered.
So at that time, he was still clipping.
Yeah, it was checkmate.
Yes.
That was
making
checkmate.
sure that you don't have an overly powerful leader in this area.
Including garnishing that cabinet with a very reckless CS called Moses Kuria.
Yes.
He's supposed to checkmate, and he's been doing it.
Yes.
Moses Kuria is one of those CSs that has been confronting this deputy president live. He's not hidden.
Yes.
So it's very obvious that the president is trying to balance the reality that they needed to win an election, but now that he's in government, he has other goals. And we are likely to see Rigathi Gachagua in a lot of trouble as days go by. I still hold, just before you go, I still hold what I said 2 years ago when this president won the election. I told you, Fred, that at one point in time, this Rigathi Gachagua will checkmate this president. And it's not too long from here. We just need 1 more year, and he realizes that they want to bury him alive. And
he will start now a revolution.
Very true. He will buy into the narrative that the current Jubilee supporters, who do not support the president but are from Mount Kenya. Remember, Jubilee delivered almost 1 million votes from Mount Kenya region. It was unheard of. Never had Raila Odinga gotten such votes in Mount Kenya, and he had never even done the kind of rallies that I saw. In Muranga, you see a whole stadium of people. It had never happened. So you can imagine we still have those people that would never supported this president. If Rigathi Gachagua had a political strategist that was sharp, he would tell him that is an open audience. He needs now to sway and probably now play victim of how our people have been, so that he can immediately inherit this base and then start fighting this government.
So do you see the hand of the president in this?
Well, let me tell you.
Is he the puppet master?
Can I tell you, leadership, you must be able to analyze the environment and take appropriate action. I can tell you that in the first place, as we are saying with George here, that was not the best choice for the president. But what can he do? There is nothing he could do at that particular time, because they found themselves in that. And I can tell you, Mount Kenya, as we started by saying, there are people who drive the politics of Mount Kenya. And when the president distributed his people like that, what is happening actually, he has actually gotten a solid base in Mount Kenya, more than what even the deputy president is doing. Do you know actually the deputy president is having wars even in his own region, in Nyeri?
Who's the deputy president?
The deputy president. He has not actually been accepted by the leaders 100%.
In Nyeri County
I
itself.
am telling you, even the leaders who are in Jubilee,
Yes.
actually, if there is one person they did not like, and even today, people don't like him. And one of the issue is the style of his leadership, I would say. There is actually the way you want, actually, and some of the pronouncements which he has been making, they are not adding value to him.
Yes.
True.
Because you see, you cannot come here and you tell people that this is a shareholding government. You know, by the way, that is a very reckless statement from a leader.
Outright alienation of a section of the country.
Correct. It is very bad in the
So
sense that...
he's blowing himself out of the water with his own words.
Correct. I think he lacks actually, and I am sorry to say this, in terms of the wisdom. And that's why the Bible says that if you lack that wisdom, ask it from God.
Yes.
Because what he is lacking is wisdom. Let me say, right now, you know, I may actually be from Mount Kenya. But if you go, and I don't want you to go and, and don't do it.
Yes.
If you go and ask, actually, you try to get, see, there is actually the way you can be able to see which party you belong to.
Yeah.
Do you know which party I belong to? Yet I am in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
I am actually in ODM.
You belong to ODM.
Yes. Actually, like right now, if, for example, people are actually asked to go and vote for someone from the ODM,
you will
my region, I would go and vote because actually I am not in the KK.
There will be shocking results in this EBN polling station.
Correct. I am not in UDA. I am actually in the ODM.
Yes.
The thing is, if, for example, you are saying this is a shareholding government, where do you put me?
Yes.
In the fact that me, I am not actually in your government, but actually I have accepted. We have a president, and he is my president, every other thing.
Yes.
So the point is, let me, because I have accepted, I need to be served as a Kenyan.
And
Why?
you need to feel like you belong to the country.
That is the thing.
Yes.
Because who is developing this country? It is the ODM person, it is the UDA person, it is the Ford Kenya person, because when actually the taxes come,
It doesn't
where do
come
they
with
come
a
from?
party.
Do they come from the ODM?
They
Do
do
they come
not
from
come with a
KK?
tattoo.
It is actually everybody.
Yes.
So you cannot say such kind of a statement. Actually, those are the statements which are making him to be very unpopular.
And just to add on what Pastor David is saying, Fred, it's like the president, this deputy president sort of lacks what you call political intelligence. I'll tell you what has happened in Kakamega this week. And I think you as journalists, you've covered it. You saw Senator Khalwale come to the deputy party leader of ODM and they've struck a deal because he read the mood of the president. President William Ruto has also made an attempt to actually checkmate Khalwale. Despite being the senior most leader in Kakamega County, he served the most amount of time in public service, probably only second to head-to-head with Oparanya because they came in 2003. So they've done almost 20 years now. Despite being the senior most politician in the county, and particularly the one in UDA, the president still went ahead to pick 37-year-old Cleophas Malala to make him the SG, and he's in cabinet. You know, Malala sits in cabinet now, he's a cabinet secretary. So it was clearly, Khalwale could notice that this is a checkmate for me. So he's decided to move the other side, which is what I was telling you that Rigathi Gachagua wants to do. You read the mood and see that there is no space for me. Any intelligent politician that is experienced would be able to read the mood very, very early. I can technically tell you that Senator Khalwale has shifted to the opposition openly. And he didn't even fail to congratulate Honorable Odinga for his 79th birthday the other day. He said,
just sending messages.
It was, and it's very
bolted.
It's bolted. Because the current governor, Governor Fernandez Baraza, was, you know, he's an old ally of President William Ruto. That's how he became the CEO of Ketraco, which was a parastatal under the Ministry of Energy. That was Charles Keter. Fred, there is no CEO of a state parastatal that can become a CEO by osmosis.
No.
It's impossible, especially in big interest ministries like energy, where you have Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Power, those are parastatals whose budgets go head to head with ministries. So for you to be a CEO of Kenya Pipeline or Kenya Power or Ketraco, it means you're managing billions. So for Fernandez Baraza then to become a CEO of Ketraco is because he had the direct blessing of the president. He's a close ally of this president for a very long time. He only came to Kakamega because it's largely an ODM county. Fred, outside of Nyanza region, the most ODM county is Kakamega County. It is 11 out of 12 constituencies. The governor, the women rep, majority MCS. There is no other county with such number of constituencies, because you know Kakamega goes head to head with Kiambu, 12 constituencies. So it's Nairobi, Kakamega, Kiambu, then Bungoma, and I think Nakuru closely. So such a county, you for a sharp politician like Honorable Halwale, he's been able to read the mood early. And he knows this president has checked me. He's taken a young boy to sort of demean me by stature, because you would obviously expect him to probably be the SG. If he was going to look, he needed an SG from a very populous region like Western Kenya. Halwale would be very, very ideal in terms of experience.
If you look at Halwale's character and you look at probably DP Gachagua's character, these are not people who will toe the line.
Exactly.
So to speak.
Exactly.
These are people who are in the. Would you trust such a person with your party? I mean, you make him a secretary. The next thing.
I completely agree. And since that is the outcome of the reality of things, that's what I'm telling you now. A sharp or an intelligent politician then reads the mood very early. He knows that I have no place in this place. In 2013, when CODE was being formed and they were launching it at KICC on day one, Charity Ngilu was there at KICC. Then at the event, Kalonzo Musyoka showed up. The next day, Charity moved to TNA. That's how she formed government with President Uhuru Kenyatta that particular time. That's an experienced politician. Because in Nana with Kalonzo here, I'm not going to make any business, political business. That's what you do. So I was giving an example of Senator Halwale because he's read the mood. He's been checkmate. He has a young boy who is now in cabinet, because I was in the county recently, this Christmas, slightly after Christmas. And Halwale, my brother Cleophas Malala, whom I go with back to the days when we were in high school, he has a full motorcade with a flag. He's a cabinet secretary with a chase car.
Sure.
So you can imagine what that means to Senator Halwale. So he's moved to the other side, and I think this Deputy President Gachagua should be able to read that very early and begin to pick out the political bonga points. And that should also include, even this time round, saying hi to Raila Odinga, because he said, I cannot greet that man, because if I greet him, I can easily put my boxers on my head and become a madman.
In fact, I want just to support what Jody is saying. Do you know, actually, this was actually likely to be like that. Do you know why I'm saying that? These Balala and Kalwale, what were they actually? In the first place, they wanted to be governors. All of them. Why is it that Kalwale was actually told to step down for Balala? It is actually something, in the first place, it had been seen. That this is a person we can trust in terms of the leadership more than Kalwale. So at the end of the day, there is actually some things which are happening, and this is the time things are now aligning themselves. And this is the actual position that was on the ground. But you find that at that particular time, there is very little people would have done. As we have said, like the DP, it was only that he was a financier. Otherwise, there was nothing else apart from that.
What about the fact that he says that he's the one who basically brought down what you can call the big powers in central Kenya? Gachagua says, Akina Uhuru, Mimi, I dealt with...
Can I tell you, Fred? Today, if you went to Central or even Mount Kenya, and you put DP and Uhuru to compete as the regional kingpin, do you know Gachagua will not be anywhere?
Uhuru will crush him.
Uhuru would actually be on the top, even as we are speaking. So there is nothing he has dismantled. Actually, let me tell you, it is only... Do you remember the time that 202?
Yes.
During the Moi and the Kibaki time. That particular time, it was people had gotten tired about the 24 years of leadership of Moi.
Nothing to
it didn't matter who was actually going to be the president at that particular time. In fact, if Fred, you are well positioned in the political parties, and the party, like now the court said, it is Fred Gili who is going to be the president. You will be the president today. Because people are actually tired about the 24 years. And I can tell you, right now, what happened is that people in Mount Kenya, there is nothing that Gachagua did that too much. And that's why we are saying, do you know the man actually even who did a lot of work is actually Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yeah.
He is actually the one who grew the numbers.
Yeah.
He actually got more than 25%.
Yeah.
Was it him or people are voting for Uhuru Kenyatta?
It is Uhuru.
Fred
Yes.
in politics.
Yes.
Fred in politics, it's about strategy and alliances.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who's the head of that alliance. If the people in Mount Kenya had chosen to rebel against the regime, anybody who sang the anti-regime
They would have voted for
would have voted for him. So it's not that there was something special about Uhuru Kenyatta. And so we had, particularly the business community from the Mount Kenya region. I attended an event for the Kenya Association for Manufacturers, and the way they were talking, and even to date, now when you talk of taxes and the cost of doing business, those are the last people, and you know most of them are from Murang'a here and these places. Those are the people who can least praise, sing any praise for this particular government. Fred, if you go to Gikomba here, where you have hardcore supporters of UDA, today, a dollar now trades at 160 shillings.
Yes.
If you're bringing in a bell ya nguo, the way they call it, and say it was costing $100, it was 12,000 shillings 2 years ago. Today is 16,000 shillings. That's 4,000 shillings. It's 25% increase in cost. Those people are no longer with what this government is doing, even though they voted for it fully. So, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in Mount Kenya, his input was almost nothing, other than the oiling of that campaign to make sure things went. Because he was the only person now on President William Ruto's side in that election cycle in Mount Kenya who could put 100, 200, 300 million in that campaign. Fred, I once told you here very quickly, I told you that Kenya, we have about 290 constituencies. The farthest constituency in Kenya is Mandera East, by virtue of the terrain, not necessarily the kilometers, but the terrain, which is at that place, is a bit very tough. For us to live here and go to, and for the three of us to live here and travel to Mandera East, we might not need 100,000 as individuals, but for in a political trip, we might need 1 million. And that means if 1 million can get us to the farthest constituency in the country, then it means we can go to all the other remaining 289. So if you have 290 million, me and Pastor David will disappear here for 2 years. Just traveling.
Let's go campaign.
Yeah, just campaigning. So the only person in Mount Kenya who could deliver that is actually this deputy president. And he got this position out of convenience.
Now, let's look at the people who are trying to seize this power from him. You have at least the person who has come out, quite openly is Ndindi Nyoro.
Correct, yes.
We know Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria, even during the time of President Uhuru Kenyatta, when they were still in good books, Moses Kuria, you would see flare-ups that would tell you this is a wild dog.
Correct,
yes.
yes.
I mean, you cannot tame him. So you have Ndindi Nyoro, you have Moses Kuria, and then Ishungwa. And then you also have Kindiki. Kindiki cannot speak now, obviously, because he's in the cabinet.
Yes.
So he's still one of those people who have been mentioned as some of the
darling
people.
of Mount Kenya, by the way.
Who? Kindiki.
He is still, actually, Kindiki commands a lot of respect.
Really?
Kindiki, I can tell you. Let me tell you. If you listen to Kindiki when he talks, he may not say so many things like what the DP is saying, but there is substance in what he is talking about.
But that may probably just appeal to the middle class and the upper class. It's like Martin Shikuku.
Yes.
Would speak beautifully, would say all kind of, but on the ground he had no traction.
Now let me tell you one thing. Didi Nyoro comes from my region. Actually, Didi Nyoro has been my member of parliament for all those years. Let me tell you, one of the things why we had to change, and you can see, from where I come, it was the governor for Murang'a right now. He has been the MP for Kiharu. After Kiharu, after him, it is actually Didi. Those are young boys.
Yes.
Let me tell you, one of the things, my mom when I went, sometimes I asked her, who are you voting? They told me, I am voting for a young man. And I asked her, why are you voting for this young man? Why is it that you don't? And you know, Kebi Getola and all those guys were both sides, but they say we don't want. And they were very popular. And they came to the young people. Why? It is because they see the ideas. Even the young people like Akina, my mom, you would actually have said they would continue with the old folk. But they started seeing that there are some few changes which are happening with these young people. So I can tell you right now, Didi Nyoro, I don't know whether you have ever watched his show.
Yes.
This man understands Kenya.
Yes, he does.
Like here.
It's very informed.
He's like a Ruto protege.
Yes. Actually, that is one man in terms of grasping and being able to understand the government. I have not seen a man who understands the government the way in fact, like the DP, he is just political.
Yes.
But there are so many things he does not understand. He will not, and that's why you can see the President Luto, he has actually gone even to put him in the budget, the chairman of the budget. Why? There are so many things that he is understanding about what is happening, even in the economic environment, which is very important for this government. So those are the things that you are fighting. At the end of the day, you may think, by the way, you may think that people don't listen. I have seen, and I can tell you, another day, I go home. What do I see? That people are going to the farm with their radios.
They're going to the farm with the radios.
With the radios. There is something that they are listening. They are listening not only songs, but they have actually heard. In fact, I have seen like we are in a group for like Kehalu. I have seen that they are posting everywhere Didi is going.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It is actually a forum.
A campaign has already started on the ground.
Yes, and people now are commenting about that. Do you know now the whole region, if you go there and ask them, because when people go into their small groups, who are they discussing? Are they discussing the DP or the Didi? They are discussing about Didi, and they are telling them, did you hear what Didi said yesterday? So many people, even the people who did not hear, they are very eager to hear what he was talking about. Like now, many people are complaining about the 12.5%, you know, the central bank, the baseline. And you know, many people did not understand about it. But you see, look, Didi goes there and he tells you, why is it that we are doing this? So when you find people start discussing like that, I can tell you the wave keep on changing. And I can tell you many people, and why they are losing is that you may assume that people are not knowing, but people are actually starting to understand who is who. And that's why we are saying right now, even if people did not like Uhuru that much, today, if they are given another chance, things would be different.
One of the reasons, quickly, Fred, that Raila Odinga has been able to survive politically up until this date is because of his ability to read the mood and actually end up creating unlikely friends. That's why Nyayo, who jailed him for 9 years, became his personal friend and he became his cabinet minister. When things didn't work with President Kibaki and there was a massive fallout, he was the first one to extend his hand and say, let bygones be bygones. Then we had a grand coalition government. When he was unable to unseat President Uhuru Kenyatta, he accepted and said, let's work together. Deputy President Gachagua needs to borrow some leaf from what Raila Odinga has, even if it's just that one thing. How do I remain around for a while? Because when you are an extremist, it becomes very hard to make transitions.
You say he's an extremist.
He is. He's an extremist. He takes hard decisions, and so then it becomes very hard. You wouldn't even. This is around the same time that this president needs allies from the other side, considering that his boss is on the other side. But if you can't make it to the other side, then where are you? You become a political orphan. So I think he needs to borrow that and then have good political strategists. I was just speaking to a friend of mine called Arnold Maliba. They've just appointed him as the communication strategist of UDA now. The president appointed him sometime last week. So I was asking him, because I know him for a while. So what do you have in tray for this government? He told me a bunch of things, and I was telling him, maybe you need to start helping the deputy president because he needs your political advice. whoever is setting him up against the young men in Mount Kenya, what happened in Nyeri, they came and they set up roadblocks, arrested a bunch of young men, branded them as Mungiki. They were arrested, taken to court, all released with around 10,000 shillings bond, and they all went back to all the constituencies to campaign against Rigathi Gachagua. How do you even politically, that's a terrible decision. Because then it means you're setting up your own young people. And you know, such kind of things do not work well for him. So the Deputy President needs to go back to the drawing board and learn from the likes of Khalwale. Because the way I'm looking at things, I might meet him on the ballot.
What about, I was listening to Jeremiah Kioni, Jubilee, and he said that Azimio has now changed. They're not separate, but what they've decided to do is each to individually go and strengthen themselves, their party. He says that's the reason why Raila Odinga, there are now campaigns. I think they're supposed to do elections for the party.
Yes, in April.
The grassroots elections. Kalonzo has already started doing rallies on his own.
Yes.
And he says Uhuru is busy doing his thing. And so probably what we are seeing in Central could have the touch of Uhuru in it.
Well, let me tell you, and that's why I'm telling you, if you look at the investment for Uhuru in terms of political leadership, it is a good investment. And that's why it is very difficult for someone who is not very strategic to be able to remove him from that position. And you will not remove Uhuru by just going and talking the way the DP is talking. He needs actually to bring people close to him. But you see now what is happening, as he is saying, he is actually making people to scatter from him. So what is happening is, Uhuru, he said, I am not going to retire from politics. I had decided to sit, but because of what they did actually, do you know actually they are the people who are making Uhuru to become strong. And I will tell you why I'm saying that. Do you know who built Joho in Mombasa?
It's Uhuru.
It is Uhuru.
Yes.
Sometimes when you speak about someone too much, people will actually get to know this person they did not know.
Exactly.
And they will start following. So if he does something which is good, what will happen? They will say this guy is saying that this man can actually get even to the higher levels. And that's why they are talking bad about him. Now they talked about Uhuru in a very bad way. And you know, the things that he was saying about Uhuru, in fact, do you know there is a time that the deputy was actually trying also to get into the camp of Uhuru? Just a few months ago.
He needs
Gachagua.
to.
Yes.
This is because he has realized that I cannot dismiss this guy. He thought that he had dismissed him and people had dismissed him. But let me tell you, there is actually something that is in Uhuru that Mount Kenya people, not even Mount Kenya, many people in Kenya like. Do you know, there is a time he went to Machakos.
Yes.
He had not actually spoken for a very long time. Everybody actually was ready and was very happy to see Uhuru speak. Because actually there is a demeanor, there is something that he talks about, and when he talks, people will actually like what he is talking. These are the things, and you know, he is very clever. He tells people, stop talking about me. You have the government. Move forward with the government. Don't get my family in. All those kind of things. And he talks in a very, casual way, but he is communicating a lot. So you will keep on just talking so many things. So do you know what has happened now? Many people are seeing that you are talking badly to our leader. Because he is still the leader. In fact, if you want to be...
Our leader, yet they rejected him.
Yeah, they rejected him because of that particular time. They actually thought that this government, there is a lot of hope that people had with this government. Actually, they knew. Like the hustler movement, because many people are hustlers, and even today they are hustlers.
The branding was top notch.
That one in terms of the communication, whatever they did, many people had a lot of expectations, and in fact that is why today, if you go to the people who voted for this presidency, and you ask them, some of the people will tell you I will not vote for 2027. They are actually thinking about whether they will vote or not vote. Why? It is because whatever they expected. So they had seen as if, because Uhuru had done some few things, But they had thought that these guys, the way he is talking, and you know, during the taga for the president, there are quite a number of areas he went and some few things started happening. So they had believed that these things are now going to continue. If he is the president, these things will continue. But I can tell you, many people are disappointed. So when they get disappointed, what do? They compare with the former. And they see the former actually was not as bad as we thought.
In Western Kenya, the president succeeded to get almost 616,000 votes, which was almost going head to head with what Honorable Odinga got. And you know, Fred, Western Kenya is not a village in Omunyoro.
Yes.
Those are other people, but they still saw wisdom in the president and actually turned out to vote to them. Sometimes I sit with some of my friends in Azimio, and this constant allegation of stealing of votes, I tend to remind them that I was in Bungoma, which is also my second home county. And Fred, I saw my own uncles and aunties queuing to vote for William Ruto. They did vote for him. And in particular, my constituency, which is my maternal constituency, which is in Webuye town, is largely an opposition area because it's a minority area. There's a sub-community there called Tachoni. Tachonis are not Bukusus. So my mother, she's Tachoni. They always rebel against Weta. So there are two constituencies in Bungoma that never vote with the Honorable Wetangula. The Mount Elgon region, which is largely Sabao to Akalenjins, and the Tachoni people in Webuye, because Webuye is Tachonla. That's where Alfred Sambu comes from. He's the kingpin of the Tachonis, even though he's an old man, he's almost 90 now. But so they always vote against him. So it's an area that constantly votes for ODM. My MCA there is an ODM MCA, it's called Balala. So when I looked at the presidential vote for the first time, William Ruto actually beat Raila Odinga in our constituency. 16,000 votes. Raila got around 12,000 votes. And those people, those were not miraculous votes because I was there, I saw it. So there are people who believed in what the president sold at that particular time because he was an outsider. You know, and they felt like, particularly the dynasty campaign, it completely made sense because these people have been there for decades. They're the ones eating our money. We need a fresh face and somebody who can speak for us. And like in any society, we don't all carry brains for each other. Everybody has his own opinion. So there are people who actually believed, I've voted for this guy for too long. And let me change the Dani. So I think Deputy President Gachagua, and I wish him well. I like his success story because he's a first-time member of parliament that became a deputy president. He's made history. And so, but he needs to read the mood very quickly and be able to adjust to the reality of what is coming ahead. It must also include making unlikely friends. So that
switching and still on the deputy president, he had said that, I think it was yesterday, was supposed to go to courts.
Yes.
And if you look at the locking of horns that has been going on between the executive and the judiciary, he had said he's definitely going to lead that war.
Actually, yesterday we were glued to the TV.
He had a change of heart.
Yeah, but it was a no-show. Which actually, let me tell you, some of these things, the president, there is what he is doing. And sometimes he allows this guy just to talk whatever he wants to talk.
Gives him enough rope for him.
Yeah, that is the thing. So that at the end of the day, when decisions will be made, it is not the president who will make them. It is actually people who will make the decisions. And you can see it has started actually. From the top, it has started. Because people will actually say, this man is not very relevant in terms of what he is talking about and what he is doing. Let me say one thing. The president, he got a letter from CJ because obviously of the things which are happening. And the CJ, in her own wisdom, she realized that, you know, like during the other regime, the judiciary and the government, it was very difficult to work together. And I know many people are actually criticizing, you know, I like what George is saying. Everybody has their own opinion. And she has her own mind. And there are some times that she can see when the environment is the way it is not a very conducive environment for us to work. And that's why she wrote a letter and she said, if we are invited, actually we'll come, we hear. What is it that is actually happening in judiciary? Because it is very bad for anybody just to go and say, Fred is a thief.
Yes.
You need actually to understand, why is it that they are saying Fred is a thief? And you know, I think the issue that is happening is that this deputy president, he may not even have the facts, even well you know, he did not have facts, maybe he didn't even have those facts. And the way we are saying is that sometimes he talks too much. You are talking to a whole country and telling people, I will be going there on Thursday.
Yes.
And you come now when we are waiting to see which are these evidence that you had. So, you know, even people stop trusting you.
Yes.
They think that you are just a joker.
You're blowing hot air.
Yeah, you are blowing hot air, which is very bad thing. And that's why we are saying, I don't know, the deputy president need to learn. Sometimes silence can also mean a lot. There are times that people even get to know who you are by just, you know, like now, you see the way George is smart. And there are people who actually would, if George doesn't talk, there is a time that they may say, George is very smart.
Yes.
But if George messes up, they will forget about how smart he is.
They will always remember the mistake.
They will remember the mistake, and they will not see that smartness at all. So, what is happening with this guy? Sometimes when he speaks, people say that this guy is an honorable man. But when he speaks, whatever he speaks, they say this man cannot be trusted. And I think he is actually overdoing things, and he's blowing things out of proportion, and he needs to learn. When the CJ is pursuing the line of sit down and understand
Dialogue
what is happening, dialogue and all these things. Then he is there now saying, I'm going to learn to the court. Who is actually heading the country? The president is actually looking at having a meeting before even they can make pronouncement, and he is actually with briefcases going to the court. This man is actually driving this way when the government is driving this way, and it is very unfortunate. I think he is losing it in a big way.
And you know what, even worse, he's not just going to court, he's going to court with a specific target. You know, there's a lady justice she picked. He said, I'm going to take on this one. And you know, worst case scenario is that she's a home girl again. Politically, the optics are terrible. You can imagine, because this lady, I don't know where she comes from, but it must be one of these counties here. And so you can imagine what it would mean, say, for example, she comes from Nyeri, where the guy comes from. And the guy just said, I'm going to court to take her out. She's called Esther Maina or Justice I've forgotten the name. Yeah, so you can imagine what that means politically, because the narrative has been that Deputy Gachagua, out of selfishness, is trying to take out anybody who appears to become somebody in this particular region. And then he hasn't just piled a bunch of kids, youngsters from Nyeri in cells. He's now going for those that are in government and all this. It doesn't work well for him. I think the deputy president needs to go back to the drawing board. And like I've said, I'm happy for his success story, because he's made it at a very short time. There are many people dying to be in that position, and they haven't been. So he's been lucky to be able to do that in one term and set history. You know, he's now on what you call it, the pension, permanent and pensionable. He'll be secured for life, because as a sitting any deputy president, CJ and president, they have these emoluments that they get for a lifetime. And so whether or not he becomes a deputy president in 2027, he's made it in life. So I wish him well when it comes to that.
Now, I was listening also to, or reading something that Ahmed Nasir has said. Ahmed Nasir says that the top court in this country, he's actually more or less supporting what the presidency has been saying. He says the top court in this country, the Supreme Court, is corrupt through and through. And this being somebody who was in the LSK, was in the JSC, interacts with these people that much, that cannot be just a casual statement.
Well, let me tell you, there is a story that is told about, and I'm saying it in quote. So I don't want to call people monkeys or something. But there is a time we used to be told, naonaga the monkey behind, how it looks like. And now one monkey sits there and it start laughing. That how do you look? You look bad, you know. You look bad from behind. But you know, it is not realizing that another monkey is seeing the same thing. You see, because it is all the same. Let me tell you, there are so many people who are talking and they are not clean. Actually, let me say, corruption. And President said it, and we need to see more action actually in terms. Let's not just go to the highway and talk about corruption in a casual way that this is our year to bring corruption down and all those things. We need actually to see it happen. Some of the people actually who are talking about corruption, I can tell you, they don't have qualification to speak about corruption. Because if you look at the history of some of these people, they have a bad track record in terms of corruption. And it is quite unfortunate that they can talk about it, which is good, it is their right, let them talk. But let first of all, go and clean. Unakumbuka the tax collector in the Bible, this man, alisema akaambiwa akasema I will return whatever I have taken and even more. These people, before they talk, let them clear their cases, because there are so many cases they have, and they are actually involved in mega deals. And you know why sometimes they will support the president is because sometimes they want actually to look like they are clean. But there are so many people, in fact, very few people right now, who can actually be counted, even in that judiciary. You see, let's say, for example, and that's why the CJ is actually saying, don't just talk about there is corruption. Tell us which are these things. That's why we are there to listen to these things. Because if you keep on saying that, by the way, like what he is telling, where he is saying that the judiciary is corrupt, why is it that he cannot stand firm and say, this is a case, like now Okia Mutata. Okia Mutata is a guy who will actually see someone like Fred has done something, and he will go, and even if he is alone, he will stand and say, this is, I'm going to go with it up to the head. And even you remember the time that you were with the president, I don't know where they were with the president. Busia. He went and he told the president, it is either you do what I am telling you to do right now, otherwise we meet in court. And you know the president, what he did? He told him, I like what Omtata is doing. Let's meet in court. But I can tell you, this time, his statements are not statements, because there are some few things he has pushed, and actually they have not been sitting pretty with the government. So what we need is actually, it is true, corruption is actually at its height. But the thing is, we don't just want to hear words, corruption. We need people to present evidence. And they say, this here, there is something. Why don't you go to, like, its integrity center? You go and report. Go and report. Let them investigate. DCI, let them investigate. But if this issue of just talking and talking, these are things which are actually past. I think they are not relevant. They are not important. We'll keep on singing the same song. We need to see action, and people need to drive these things to the bodies which can be able to investigate, and someone is cleared or they are put in jail. So those are the things we are saying. But I think there is a lot of rhetoric. There is a lot of talking, but it is not necessary.
You know, Fred, they say that when an alligator comes out of the water and tells us that the crocodile is sick, we must believe it because it knows where it's coming from. So Ahmed Nasir here is the alligator, and the judiciary is the sea, and the judges are the crocodiles. So there is no doubt that we have questionable characters within the judiciary, and that Kenyans would love to have a fair system where their issues can be addressed without bias and without any extra cost. You understand? That's the desire of the public. But the challenge that we have with this particular president, and even when we see the Chief Justice saying that I've written the letter to the president, I want us to sit and discuss. Fred, there's nothing that this CJ and this president can talk about a written constitution that has been passed by the Kenyans. Because the decisions are clear that we need to have separation of powers. Each particular institution has a functions. The functions are very clear, what the executive is supposed to do, what the legislature is supposed to do, and what the judiciary is supposed to do. The executive manages the affairs of the people. The legislature ensures that those issues are actually addressed according to law, and the judiciary oversights any situation where those laws have been broken. So the president doesn't need to meet with the CJ. There's nothing unique or out of this world they can do about a written constitution. It's very unfortunate. And this president, for somebody like him who narrowly escaped actually going to jail, if this president had not won this election, he would be very busy at Milimani courts. He probably would have an apartment somewhere in Upper Hill where he can now start reporting on daily basis. They had almost 37 cases against him. 37 cases. They had something to do with land somewhere in Ngong. They had something to do with the lands at home there. There are some companies of his that were trading with the government. They were questioning his tax numbers. Had he not made it to become president, it is by stroke of luck. He needs the 200,000 people that got him across the board, because I told you that remember, to become president, Fred, you need at least 24 counties. So even if the 6 counties or the 7 counties of Mount Kenya vote you 100%, you can't become president. Even if you top up with the other 5 counties, the Kalenjin counties in Rift Valley, you are only at 11. You need 24. This president became president because there are other people in other regions who opted to look over and above tribalism, over and above personality issues, and fell for what he sold. That's why in Western, I've told you, he got almost 600,000 votes. That's a whole lot of votes. The only exception there would be around the 50,000 Mount Elgon constituency who was about, and say a few other migrants, you know, the people who are from these other areas and they're living in that particular region, probably another 100,000. That would tell you he got almost 500,000 votes from largely from Luyas, who are not Kikuyus or Kalenjins. They voted for him. The same happened in the coast. The president got almost 400,000. So that is almost 1 million votes that traditionally voted for Raila Odinga. These people voted for him. And that's why people like me who come from regions which are opposition regions, I moved on a long time ago because I was on the ground and I actually did see people turning out for this president. It is not a rumor that Hedi is not a rumor that it can't be. You know, people say it can't be that 230 people, 230,000 people voted for this president in Bungoma. They did vote for him. You understand? So we moved on. He's the president of this republic. He has a cardinal duty to ensure that the execution and implementation of the 2010 constitution is done as it was written, not as to how he wishes. You understand? So it's very unfortunate. The constitution does give the president a way out to address his issues, and not just the president, because every other citizen is free to go to the Judicial Service Commission to challenge any magistrate or judge that he feels has not behaved as per the requirements of his work. We have a judge that was impeached sometime last year in 2022. Yeah, he did, and he went through a process. So if this president, like any other citizen, because William Ruto is a citizen of the Republic of Kenya, he has every right to have reservations about somebody, but we have laws and structures through which he can go to address those issues. That's where we pass, because, Fred, if the judiciary collapses, then we have no country.
We become a banana republic.
We become like Somalia, you know, where the president can hardly leave the airport. You know, the Somali president lives at the airport. He's always moving.
Well, with that, we got to bring down the curtains on this show. But one of the things that we truly need to do, we as people of the faith, even as all these things are happening, we cannot afford to lose hope. We cannot afford to not pray for this government, this leadership, because it is commanded us in the scriptures that we should pray for our leaders. I know quite a number of churches, including the Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu, is praying. During this period, there's a fasting and praying. I think it's 21 days of fasting. And there's a lot of praying for the country, praying for wisdom, praying for the leadership, which is very, very key, so that wisdom can be given to them. And then, there are advisors who give fake and bad advice. We can be able to take them so that these leaders can work for the good of this country. There are so many people who are sleeping at night without a meal. So real. And most of them during this period because of what has happened both globally and also in the country. So this is a country that needs a lot of prayer. So we don't lose hope. We are not those who give up and turn back. We believe and we are going to achieve what we want, even as wisdom prevails in this country. With that, Have yourself a good morning. Remember, Daughters of the Kingdom are coming in later on this morning with some interesting things to say about what needs to happen, the shifts, the mindset change that needs to happen within the kingdom. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, Fred.
Beautiful.
Yeah.